As the blaring sound of alarms echoed across the airbase, the once calm and orderly atmosphere suddenly transformed into chaos filled with tension. The piercing sirens signaled a state of emergency, marking the beginning of a major operation that forced every personnel to move instantly without hesitation. B-52 Stratofortress bomber pilots sprinted toward their aircraft, clad in full flight suits and combat gear already strapped to their bodies. Each step carried the awareness that every second was critical, as the mission ahead could determine not only the safety of the nation, but also the stability of the world. The wailing alarms were not just routine warnings, but rather a signal of the highest combat readiness only used in the most serious of circumstances. The scene vividly reflected the U.S. Air Force's relentless training and discipline, ensuring that the moment the alarms were triggered, every pilot and crew member could respond swiftly, with coordination and precision against threats that could emerge at any given moment. On the wide stretch of runway, ground crews had already begun working at high speed, yet with extreme caution to prepare the legendary bomber. They carried out systematic checks of electronic systems, navigation sensors, massive jet engines, and communication links connecting the aircraft to command centers. The most crucial stage of this preparation, however, came when the crews began loading nuclear-armed bombs into the B-52's weapons bays. This was no ordinary task, but one filled with immense risk and demanding absolute precision, as even the slightest mistake could bring catastrophic consequences. Using specialized hydraulic cranes and high-tech locking mechanisms, the nuclear bombs were carefully hoisted and mounted onto internal bomb racks and external pylons beneath the wings. Once secured, technicians meticulously inspected electrical connections, dual safety systems, and data links between the bombs and the aircraft's weapons computer. Each step was repeated multiple times for the mission's safety, the military's credibility, and even the balance of global security depended on the flawless installation of these devastating weapons. As the loading process neared completion, the atmosphere around the B-52 grew even heavier, charged with a sense of seriousness. Ground crews focused on the final locking procedures and performed detailed checks on each nuclear bomb, ensuring no loose fittings, faulty wiring, or malfunctioning systems remained. They relayed precise reports to the pilots already standing by at the cockpit ladder, confirming that the arsenal was combat-ready and that release systems were operating within strict standards. The pilots then climbed into the massive cockpit, strapping into their seats and donning helmets and communication gear directly linked to the control tower. Moments later, the B-52's engines roared to life, unleashing a deafening sound that reverberated across the base. The immense vibrations from the 8 turbofan engines shook nearby buildings and guard posts. All eyes were fixed on the bomber, now fully armed with nuclear bombs and prepared to take to the skies for a mission of the highest risk. Armed with weapons capable of changing the course of war, the B-52 Stratofortress street-ood as a living symbol of American air power and nuclear deterrence, a grim reminder to anyone daring to challenge U.S. military might. Inside the cockpit, the pilots began executing startup procedures with absolute focus, while coordinating closely with ground crews still conducting final checks around the aircraft. Every instrument panel was carefully inspected: avionics, radar systems, communications, and weapons control panels now directly linked to the nuclear payload. Meanwhile, outside, the ground team carried out their final visual inspections of the landing gear, massive wings, and bomb bay doors, ensuring no hydraulic leaks or technical malfunctions could jeopardize the mission. Communication between pilots and technicians continued seamlessly, creating perfect synchronization before the giant bomber was cleared for movement. Once every technical report confirmed readiness, the ground crew signaled with flashlights and hand gestures, authorizing the bomber's movement. Slowly but steadily, the roar of the B-52's engines intensified, shaking the air with overwhelming force. The aircraft rolled away from the apron and began taxiing toward the main runway, watched intently by base personnel who understood the gravity of the mission. Its 8 turbofans provided relentless thrust, propelling the bomber with unwavering momentum. In the cockpit, the pilots carefully steered the aircraft, preparing for takeoff while continuously monitoring weapon systems and communications. Each passing second felt stretched, for as soon as the B-52 reached the runway, the world knew that a nuclear-capable mission could begin at any moment. With all systems declared safe, the pilots received direct clearance from the control tower to initiate takeoff. The massive bomber accelerated with overwhelming force, its engines thundering across the runway with a roar so loud it carried far beyond the base's perimeter. Within seconds, the landing gear lifted off the ground, and the B-52 Stratofortress soared into the sky at full speed. Its heading was locked toward the Baltic Sea, a region now engulfed in tension following Russia's open challenge to the presence of American strategic bombers. The pilots remained focused on their instruments while maintaining constant communication with command centers and escorting fighter jets standing by for protection. At thousands of feet in altitude, the B-52 maintained its designated formation, carrying out a high-risk mission that could alter the trajectory of European geopolitics. Russia's provocation did nothing to intimidate the American pilots. If anything, it fueled their determination to showcase the Air Force's readiness to respond to any aggression. Armed with nuclear bombs, the bomber now embodied deterrence and sent an unmistakable message to anyone testing America's resolve. With full speed toward the Baltic Sea, the pilots knew their mission was no mere exercise, but a decisive step to uphold air dominance and safeguard stability in a region on the edge of conflict. Once the bomber reached its designated operational point, the pilots entered the most critical phase of the mission: bomb launch preparation. Weapon panels in the cockpit lit up as targeting systems were calibrated and precise coordinates transmitted by command were entered. Every second grew heavier, each procedure bringing the aircraft closer to the release point. The crew was acutely aware that within seconds, they held the power to unleash nuclear devastation upon a target, a decision that carried consequences, not just militarily, but on a global strategic scale. With all weapon systems armed and ready, the pilots awaited final authorization from command. Their fingers hovered near the release controls. The mere movement of a hand capable of initiating destruction on an unimaginable scale. The nuclear bombs aboard the B-52 possessed the power to obliterate vast areas, designed to maximize deterrence through sheer destructive potential. Inside the cockpit, silence reigned, broken only by the calm yet tense confirmations exchanged among the crew that all systems remained nominal. The bomber surged forward steadily along its strike path, and the world knew that at any given moment, America's nuclear capability could unleash devastation unmatched by any adversary.